Hello, everyone. I'm Sean.
This is who?
We are the Courageour Frights back once again for another movie review,
Yes.
movie comparison. So this time we're doing One Missed Call, the Japanese one, and the American one.
Yes. Which the Japanese one was definitely, at least to me, it was definitely much better than the American one.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, that was no comparison actually.
Like no contest this time.
Yeah, it was like okay.
So like last week we did Dark Water,
Yeah, Dark Water.
and may have had a controversial opinion because we both kind of agreed that the American version was just a slight bit better than the Japanese version, at least for us.
Yes. Yes.
This one is, like we said, no contest. The Japanese
Yeah.
one is way better than the American one.
Yeah, the American one is just a mess. It's like it's not good.
Yeah, so we'll get to that in a second. But all right, so we're gonna explain the story of One Missed Call.
Yes, I guess we'll start with the beginning. So the bar they're talking about like just like something that's happened about someone making calls or like someone dies or something like that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then yeah, they're talking with their friends, and then that one girl, Yoko, like comes up behind her
Yeah.
and tells her that her friend died
Yeah, her
in like
friend
a
dies.
diving accident or something.
Yeah, and she was like in a funeral or something, and she was just like at their funeral, so she was coming in a little late.
Mhm. And she gets a call from the friend who died.
Yeah, saying that at this time, like in the future,
Yeah,
like it shows like your future date and like your future time of when this voicemail shows up on your phone.
yeah, and it's your voice, and it's basically what you say right before you die.
Yeah, because I think hers was like something weird's going on type of thing, and then you hear
Yeah,
her
it's like it's
screaming.
raining, or she's like, "Oh, it's raining," or something, and then she screams.
Yeah, you can hear like a train in the background or whatever, which that's what happens. Like after they're out of the bar area, she basically goes like she's walking home or something like that.
Yeah, she's going home, and she's walking on like an overpass of where the train is, and some like entity or something cuts the fence and pushes her off the thing, and she gets hit by the train.
Yeah, and then like the next scene, it shows her like her arm, like her severed arm, was just is like texting on the phone. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. It says it's in Japanese. I'm not sure if it's going through the contact list or if she's just texting.
Yeah, it scrolls through your contacts list, and it seems like it picks somebody at random, and then the same thing will happen to them. So then
Yes,
they hear themselves dying on a future voicemail.
yeah, in which I think the next one it shows it follows like Kenji's one of the characters that were in like the actual bar area. So like I
Mhm.
think it's like I don't know if it's like a boyfriend or maybe just like someone she likes,
Yeah,
something like that. So because Yumi's our main character, like Yumi's like their main character that we follow. So she's kind
right.
of like in every scene, kind of. So I think like like after that they were like at the weren't they like at the college or something like that, and she was talking to Kenji, and Kenji's like, I
Yeah,
got this phone a call.
Yeah, Kenji, dumbass Kenji doesn't
Yeah.
tell anybody until it's like 2 minutes before
Yeah,
the
2 minutes before.
time, and then he gets dragged down an elevator shaft
Yeah.
by like this invisible hand or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it calls
Natsumi is the next
Natsumi.
person.
Yeah, Natsumi, who's their other friend.
Yeah, it's their other friend. So and then I think Yumi saw this since Yumi was there when Kenji dies, I think since Natsumi gets the phone call. I think was Yumi there when Natsumi got the phone call? I can't remember. Or Natsumi got the
Yeah,
phone call.
Natsumi gets the phone call when they're at their one of their bedrooms or something,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and they're talking about the weird calls and all that kind of stuff, and then
They
Yumi
take like they
tries
take the
to disconnect the phones or
oh, okay, yeah,
whatever.
like take the phone call, like take the battery out or something.
Yeah, and then Natsumi gets the call then.
Yeah, it's well, and it plays this music. It plays this like this weird, like this lullaby music or something. It's like this weird,
Yeah, it's
creepy
this
music that it plays.
really iconic like ringtone that a lot of people were using at the time the movie came out, because this movie was like extremely popular when it came out in Japan.
Mhm.
So it's a very well known ringtone now, but it originates in this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she gets the ringtone. There's like a specific ringtone that goes just for when the ghost calls.
Yeah, and then I guess when they're going, like I don't know if they're going home or something, but like the Japanese media shows up. It's like these guys, like it's like the Japanese media coming up. But I think it's like a TV show or something.
Yeah, it's like some like paranormal investigation series or something about exorcisms.
Yeah, because I think cause this is like after the scene where she tries to like basically get her phone erased, and then I think the Japanese media comes up and is like, "We want you to be in this film movie, like this show about like exorcisms or something like that."
Right. And
But
that's
since you
like,
didn't have that, what's up?
I think it's close to around the time that she encounters that detective guy.
Yeah, because the detective actually happens right after this scene. Because it's basically like, if I remember correctly, she like the guy, like the producer guy's like, here, give me your phone. Like he got a phone from one of the other, like one of his like assistants or something like that. It's like, here, this is the phone that she had because said she got rid of it.
Mm.
And then it plays the music again, like because she has it in her hand. It starts playing the music and it shows like a text, like a picture text of her, like of what's going to happen to her.
Right.
And then right after that, I think the Hiroshi, which is like the detective. I don't know if he's a detective or not. I don't think it actually explains.
He's like, yeah, he's like a detective or a cop or something.
Yeah, then he's like standing at the top of like the stairs, like just staring at him, like weird, like it's like a weird looking stare that he's doing. It's like, why are you standing
Yeah,
there
he's
like a
just out
creeper?
there creeping. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a creeper. And this
It's,
is where we learned this part because I think right after that, he kind of explains to her that like his sister actually died before he got
mhm.
burned to death or something, and he had her phone on her like. He had like a collection of all these phones, and this is what he actually talks. I think this is what he tells her that he had the phone from the severed arm because from her friend
Yeah.
from the beginning of the movie that got hit by the train, and it had the numbers of like it's all from like the same number, if I remember correctly. Well, it was all from the same number, wasn't it?
I think. Yeah.
But it's just calling out to people type of thing.
Right. So they go to the exorcism thing, and it's pretty obvious the guy's a fraud.
Yeah.
Like he's not doing anything. And then the ghost comes for Natsumi, and Yumi gets there and tries to help her, but she can't help her in time.
Mm-hmm.
And the ghost comes and like basically turns Natsume into a human pretzel.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
pretty crazy looking. It's like, okay, it's pretty gruesome.
yeah,
Like
then it
ripping
like
her arms apart.
twists her head completely off,
Yeah.
which is like crazy.
And then like the candy falls out of her mouth and just
Oh
like
yeah,
goes down the floor.
we haven't mentioned the candy, but yeah, every person who dies has like a red like jawbreaker in their mouth, like a real
Yeah.
hard candy.
Yeah, then it kind of goes out of her mouth. It comes out of her mouth after like several heads on the ground.
Yeah, and then the phone calls Yumi.
Yeah, Yumi gets the message next. And this is actually where, or I guess we'll get into this when we get to the like to get between the two films here. But yeah, it calls Yumi next, and I think Hiroshi, because since Yumi's gonna be next, I think Hiroshi's like trying to help her. Like
Mhm.
we need to try to get this solved out before you like get killed here.
Right, and that's when he starts fully going into like the main investigation and everything.
Yeah, and this is actually where you start getting some of Yumi's backstory after this, because I think they're in like her apartment or something like that, and then she's like kind of like, what am I supposed to do type of thing, because he's like on the bed, and then he kind of like pulls up her arm, like her sleeve on her arm, and you can see like burn marks on it,
Mhm.
and he's like, oh, what's that type of thing. And then you kind of go in the backstory where Yumi was like, when she was younger, I guess her mother like abused her,
Right.
like burned like her cigarette in her arm. And then she goes and like basically kind of shows where she sees her grandmother hanging there. Like she must have her grandmother just like might have just killed herself or something like that.
Right.
And I guess this is where it gets to that point where they talk about like abuse and stuff like that. 'Cause I think that's like a theme is like abuse is a theme in these movies.
Yeah, well, in this one particularly, it was like
Yeah.
abuse causes more abuse kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like it's kind of like a downhill spiral. Like when someone gets abused, it just kind of gets more abuse. It's called like, and then also something called Munchausen syndrome. They talk about it twice, but Munchausen syndrome apparently is where someone will purposely make their kid like sick or something like that, or just so they can get like the attention.
Right.
Yeah, like being praised for like taking care of their kid or something. Like just like apparently it must be like an actual syndrome.
Yeah, it is.
Or something like that.
But yeah, that happens, and there's this girl that the detective starts investigating, who's they believe mother was abusing her or something.
Yeah.
And it turns out she's directly connected to it because her like teddy bear or whatever has a song in it that is the same as the ringtone.
Yeah.
So they find out she's connected, and then somehow Yumi finds out that the mother disappeared like 6 months prior or something at some hospital that like was in a fire or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they talk about it. It's maybe they just kind of mention it because I don't remember I don't know why the mother's like not there. They ask about it. It's like, where's the mother at?
Yeah, it's like they haven't seen her in like 6 months or something, and the kid won't speak anymore.
Yeah, because I know when they go to the apartment, like she goes to like they go to her apartment. I guess like the landlord or like the person who owns the building like just has the keys. Like, oh, we're just gonna tear everything out because no one's paid the bills in like 6 months. No one's been here for 6 months, and we're just gonna tear everything out. You can keep your shoes on. We're taking the floors out. I guess
Yeah,
rip everything out, gut everything.
yeah, pretty much.
So I guess you
So
can start. This is where you start seeing like Yumi starting to see things too, because I think that's kind of one thing where they kind of start seeing like supernatural stuff.
yeah, she does because she's seeing like ghosts in the cupboards and
Yeah.
all this other stuff.
Then after that, I think they go to this actually getting close to the end of the movie. I guess doesn't Yumi go to like the hospital or something
Yeah,
like
she
that?
goes to the hospital on her own, and
Yeah,
then
to kind of ask about
yeah, and then
the kid.
the detective follows her later.
Yeah, because I think she like
She
calls him.
calls, yeah, she calls him, and then he's like rushing to get to the hospital in time. And then time's running out for Yumi.
Yeah, because she only had like 16 hours or something between the two.
Right.
When she got her first call.
Yeah. So he shows up to try to help her. And then he notices that there's like a dead body holding a phone in the other
Yeah.
room. And that turns out to be the mother, like the corpse of the mother.
Yeah.
And she's like weird green and gooey for some reason.
Yeah, she looked like she was like been in the bloated or like like drowned somewhere. She kind of looked like it was like it's pretty good. Like the way that practical effect was actually pretty decent.
The effects work is all really good in One Missed Call, except for the CGI punching through the door.
Yeah,
nonsense.
that's really bad.
That was bad, but all the practical effects were decent.
And then doesn't he like take the phone? So it takes that phone off the corpse or whatever.
Yeah,
and then it basically takes off, like the phone stops ringing basically, and it's like okay, because I think didn't she get like a call or something like that said you only have, or kind of like a text saying they only have like 56 seconds to live or something.
right. Yeah, and he takes the phone off the corpse, and that kind of breaks it. But then Yumi goes to investigate the body or whatever, and then it comes to life and attacks her. Like it's weird, like zombie. And then but then she like eventually manages to reason with it, and they think that they've subdued the curse.
Yeah.
And then the big twist at the end or whatever turns out that the mother wasn't actually abusing the child at all. It was their sister that was.
Yeah, the sister that died from like an asthma attack.
Right, because that's another thing that happens earlier in the film too, is every time it's like that, like a sign that heralds this thing's arrival, is like it sounds like almost like an inhaler.
Yeah, like a butyrol or something being sprayed in
Right.
the air.
Yeah. So you hear that sound, and then when somebody dies, the candy comes out of their mouth, and the ringtone is coming from the bear. And it turns out that the candy is something that she did. She would like torture her sister and then give her candy to like make amends or whatever. It
Yeah,
was
I'd be
kinda
like, if you want to quiet yourself, here's some
yeah,
candy.
here's some candy. I'll stab you with a knife, but here's some candy.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
And
And
then at the very end of the movie, it turns out that okay, the mother wasn't the real culprit; it was the sister. And
yeah,
then
Mimiko.
yeah, Mimiko, which is funny because there was that bag in Dark Water called Mimiko,
Yeah,
and she shows up at the end and basically possesses Yumi. The two fuse and become Yumiko,
yeah, Yumiko.
and then the detective comes to the house or whatever and gets stabbed by Yumiko,
Yeah.
and
Then he gets
then
stabbed at his will to live because he gets stabbed and instantly like just falls on the ground. He's
collapses.
like,
Yeah, he like
he was
collapses
like
on
walking
himself.
for 2 steps too. And he's like, okay,
And
I
then
lost my will to live.
and that's when the movie loses the plot because
Yeah, the
there's
ending is not good.
ending's
Maybe
weird.
yeah, it's like a strange ending. It's like it ended 5 minutes too late.
Yeah, he wakes up in the hospital and then Yumi's standing over him, being super creepy
With like a knife behind her
with a
back,
knife
basically.
behind her back and a big smile on her face,
And she
then the
gives him
movie
candy
ends.
or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like a jawbreaker, and he just bites that thing like it's nothing. Like
He
it's like,
just like bites that shit in half.
is your teeth
But
made of like adamantium or something? That's not
pretty much. So, and that's pretty much how the movie ends. So it's almost like this was directed by Takashi Miike, and it's like the very end of the movie pretty much just becomes audition again.
Yeah, pretty much.
But aside from the movie going a little bit too long on the ending, it's one of those movies that has like 3 endings, and it's like you
Yeah.
should have stopped with the first one.
Yeah.
But aside from the ending, this movie's really good. The pacing is great, unlike
Yeah.
Dark Water, which was like really slow. This one, this is longer than Dark Water, but it doesn't feel like it.
No, it's not a slow movie, so it actually paces very well. So you have like ghost scenes, I guess you can say, like your scary scenes. They're pretty well planned out, and they're actually long enough to where like, okay, I can actually see what's going on.
Yeah, it's Takashi Miike is mostly influenced by Western filmmakers like
Yeah.
Lynch and Cronenberg and all that kind of stuff, and it definitely shows. Like this movie is paced almost more like an American film than a typical Japanese horror film.
Yeah,
Like there's an action scene or like a ghost sequence or something like every 10 to 15 minutes. Like there's set beats. And there's a few jump scares. There's like a mix of different kinds of horror and like all that kind of stuff. Like it's that very gory compared to most Japanese horror films. Like over the top, like kills and all that kind of. It's almost like Final Destination or The Omen or something.
There was a couple of things that looked like that first scene when that one
train.
The Yoko. I don't know what his name was. Yeah, the train hit there. That's Yoko. Like Final Destination, the movie.
Right. Yeah. So it's almost like Japanese Final Destination or like The Omen or something. Yeah. So yeah, I highly recommend this one. I would give the Japanese one probably like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I'd agree. Like 8 out of 10 probably. That's a good
yeah
score.
Like it's almost a 9, but that ending is just like I don't know, but
yeah,
I give it like around an 8.
Yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why. I guess One Missed Call is considered one of the better Japanese J horror films. So
well, it's one of the few that has sequels.
Yeah, 3 or 2 sequels too, which is kind of that's surprising for a Japanese film, I would think.
Yeah, there's 2 sequels and apparently a TV series. It was like 1 season or something. But the only other movies I can think of that got sequels at all is like Ju-on and Ringu, which are considered like the best of the best.
Yeah, the ones that you want to see J horror, that's the one you want to see, like basically.
Right. Like if you're only going to see, I guess if you're only ever going to see 3 Japanese horror films, I guess they would be Ju-on, Ringu, and One Missed Call.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to say about the Japanese version. So let's move on to the cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah. The movie that got a 0%, I think, on Rotten Tomatoes or something.
0%.
Yeah,
and
0.
apparently was awarded the Moldy Tomato.
Yeah.
Which I think was something they just made up for this film.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the red flags that point up is the poster.
Yeah.
that poster is like, what is that even supposed to be? It doesn't even look
There's like
creepy. It just looks weird. Like stupid.
screaming faces for eyes or something.
Yeah, screaming faces for eyes.
But what's weird is that actually shows up in the movie.
Yeah, I was like, I thought it was kind of like a Silent Hill moment, where it shows that girl with like no mouth type of thing, like in the movie.
Yeah.
But this is like, it actually shows up as like some weird monster.
Right. So the American one actually starts with the mother dying in the hospital fire, which we never actually see, and that's not revealed till the end of the movie. But this one starts with that, and then follows it up with the person who drowned.
Yeah, which in the Japanese one, they just talk about. They don't show it. And then, for some reason, it kills the cat too. Why does it kill?
Yeah, like choke slams the cat.
Yeah, for no reason at all.
And then the same thing happens with like the red jawbreaker or whatever.
Yeah,
that's still the same. Actually, most of the movie's the same as the Japanese one. It's just so poorly like edited and paced.
Yeah, the pacing is all over the place. It's like it's very fast paced. It doesn't even hang on the scenes. You don't really know what's going on. It goes
it's like breakneck editing.
Yeah, it's like if Quibi made a movie. This is what it would be like.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's 40 minutes shorter than the Japanese one, but it covers almost all the same scenes.
Yeah.
So like that tells you how much is cut.
Yeah.
Like at one point in the film, the detective says his name answering the phone, and he doesn't even get his full name out before it cuts to the next scene.
Yeah, it's like obviously there's something else supposed to be going on here.
It does that several times. It goes from that, and then we get introduced to a bunch of characters at a party.
Yeah, it's like a house party.
Yeah, and it turns out these characters are like almost exactly the same as the Japanese ones. So I can't remember the names of the American ones. There's like Leanna, who's
Leanne. That's the one that gets hit by a train.
Yeah, that was Yoko in the other version. Who's the lead? Is that Beth or something?
I'm not even sure. But yeah, I think it might be Beth.
That was Yumi. And
yeah, Beth is the lead.
Beth was Yumi, and then there was that other girl that was in place of Natsumi. That was
but she was like in
Taylor.
In the Japanese version, Natsumi kind of had a little bit bigger role because she was kind of like her friend type of thing. This one, it kind of like it cut so much. She's like in there for like 10 minutes. It was like,
yeah. And then there's the guy that was Kenji. I can't remember what his name is.
Kenji was Brian.
Brian, okay. So they all die pretty much the same, in the same order, same everything, except for like there's some slight differences. Like instead
Brian gets hit in the head with like
Brian gets impaled through the chest by like a piece of rhubarb or something.
Yeah.
And
a piece of rhubarb goes into him for some reason.
And Taylor's death sucks compared to the Natsumi one, because Natsumi gets ripped and like torn into like a pretzel and her head twisted off. And
yeah, this one she just like
Taylor like
or something.
Yeah, something like that. The lights go out and she's dead. Like that's pretty much it.
Like, okay.
And same crap happens with the fake like TV minister or whatever that like does exorcisms and paranormal things and stuff. And like I said, it's basically the same movie, but they just edit everything down so quickly.
Yeah, because there's points where you like, since in the Japanese version, Yumi has that once like there's a scene that tells about her backstory. This one it kind of like sprinkles it throughout the movie. So she'll be talking and then she'll have like a flashback to her past, but it still explains it later. It's like weird. It's like it shows the same scene like 4 times.
Yeah, and it's real weird pace too, because it's just like randomly happens out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like, takes you out of the scene. And then for some reason they decide to make everybody who's cursed sees weird crap everywhere before they die. Like they see weird ghost-faced people all over the place,
or like centipedes
everywhere for some reason.
Centipedes that aren't even like, I don't know. I'm guessing they're like at New York or something. It kind of look like New York somewhere.
Yeah, but for some reason there's like giant Vietnamese centipedes all over the place.
For some weird reason.
Or like Japanese mukade or something. They're like everywhere. And we find out why, because it's all symbolism that tied to the family, just like in the first one, because the bear and all that stuff was
camera.
Right. All that stuff was present when the girl died. and made her a ghost in the first place in
Yeah.
both versions. But the
Even the
stuff,
creepy dolls, like the creepy doll was like why they see this little eye face thing is like that she has a doll in her room that looks like this. It's like why
yeah,
would you ever buy this for your
there's
kid?
there's all these creepy weird dolls in the room. Outside there's a tree that looks like it has a tumor growing out of it that's hemorrhaging sap and
Yeah.
is apparently a nest for giant centipedes.
Yeah.
Like,
That's why you see the centipedes everywhere.
what the hell is happening?
Yeah. And then it cuts so much. It's like, what the heck? It's like you don't even get a chance to even like absorb that. It's like there's giant millipedes here. Then it cuts to something else. It's like, what the heck is going
Yeah,
on?
there's like a jar of giant she has like 8 giant millipedes in a jar. I guess that's the kid's pet.
Yeah.
And then, but outside there's like a giant centipede nest.
Yeah.
In a tree that's gushing sap for some reason. It's like,
Yeah.
what is this symbolism?
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make any sense. It's just random shit. Like,
yeah. Pretty much.
It's a bunch of random crap that they just threw together and put in a scene.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
But now there's centipedes everywhere whenever somebody's about to die, but they have weird, terrible CGI centipedes that are like crawling into people's skin and stuff, and it looks awful.
Or like the lady's burning, like it shows like the mother is like on fire basically.
Yeah.
And it's like a really bad CGI because there's one scene where it shows like it's like leaves falling from a tree because like fall,
mm-hmm.
and it's blowing around her, and it looks like Airman, like Leaf Man from NES. Maybe that might even be better looking, actually. You know,
yeah.
like in Mega Man 2, it has like the leaf thing, the shield.
Yeah.
That might even look better than what was going on in the movie.
Whatever's going on in the movie. But plot-wise, it's basically the same.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's almost scene for scene. It's just
the only good effects are the practical stuff, like the zombie mother or whatever in the hospital. That looked all right. It looked like it looked like the turning around zombie from Resident Evil.
But yeah, that actually they did a pretty good job on that.
That looked good. Surprisingly, the faces and crap punching through the metal door looked better in the American one than it did in the Japanese one. That's about it. Everything else is terrible.
I'm trying to think, because even like the scene's cut so fast. There's like a scene where she's running down a hallway and then she gets teleported to the front room where there's lights. And it's really jarring. It's like in the hospital.
Yeah.
Like it's almost at the end of the movie. So she's running down this dark corridor, and then the next scene is it cuts so fast that she's at the front door knocking on the door, but all the lights are on, and it's like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, and there's that other scene too where the guy's walking through the room, and it's like for some reason they skipped like every other frame.
Oh yeah, it's like they forgot to put it in there.
It's like it just keeps blacking out, and then the person moves like 3 steps from where they were.
Yeah,
and then the ending is basically the same, but except for the very end, because the detective comes back because all of a sudden they suddenly have weird romance.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's
and like a thunderstorm, and then he comes into the house to check on her or whatever. Then something's going on outside. They discover
the knock. There's like a knock on the door or something.
Yeah, and they discover that, just like the Japanese one, they discovered that the mother wasn't to blame at all. It was actually the sister again.
Yeah,
and detective or the cop, who his one line of the movie is, "I'm a cop."
Yeah, I'm a cop, you idiot.
I'm a cop, you idiot. It was Detective John Kimball. But he goes to check, looks through the peephole, and he gets stabbed in the face and dies.
Yeah,
which that's different.
Yeah, I think the other one, the other one, it goes like he gets stabbed in this.
Well, the other one, they keep him alive or whatever, so that she can pretend she can play the character from Audition.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this one, he just gets knifed in the eye and dies. Well, they had that scene in the other one, but it was Yumi, and she dodged it.
Yeah, she dodged it because she sees like Mimiko like
except
staring through the window.
Except for it wasn't a knife in the Japanese one; it was the T-1000 like stabbing finger.
Yeah, stabbing finger through the peephole, through her like destroyer.
Yeah, I forgot about that. What the hell? Yeah. This woman has like a door from a battleship like on her apartment.
Yeah, because the people looks weird. It doesn't even look like a no. It looks like a periscope. I don't even know what it is. It's like really weird.
It's like, who gotta go through the periscope, check to see if there's any submarines in the hallway.
Yeah.
You pull a cord next to the door, it drops a depth charge from the ceiling.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on with that lady's apartment, the Japanese one.
Yeah.
But the American one, she's like in a regular house. And
yeah.
So anyway, the detective, John Kimball, gets stabbed in the eye and dies. And then the door opens up and the creepy ghost girl pops in. That's
it goes like bad CGI.
It's bad CGI, but it's like the sound design and stuff actually makes it almost effective. Like it's kind of scary.
I do agree. Yeah, because she's like wheezing and stuff. It sounds.
Yeah, it was like it sounded scary. Like it doesn't look that scary, but it sounded scary. And she's like moving towards her, and then all of a sudden her mother's ghost appears dressed as Nurse Joy from Pokemon.
Then she throws the Master Ball cell phone, the Motorola Master Ball or whatever,
and traps her daughter in the phone. And then
the daughter goes into the phone, gets sucked into it,
pieces out. And she's like, "My job here is done. I've saved everyone." And then immediately after, the phone starts dialing somebody else. So obviously nothing changed.
Yeah, and then the lady like walks towards the camera and it's like she doesn't even care. It's like, why don't you just destroy the phone then or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, and then the movie ends.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
Okay.
But
now, Rotten Tomatoes gave this movie a 0%, meaning that this is the worst film ever
in
existence. So like if you just made your own home movie of you taking a dump and released that, it would be at least as good as this film, according to Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the worst movie that's ever been conceived. But
it is pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not great. I'm gonna give it like a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, 3, 2, 3. It's pretty bad, and I think it's bad just like because the source material is good. Like the source material we got from is good.
Like I think if this movie was by itself and there wasn't the Japanese version that we gave an 8 or whatever to, this would be kind of like a crappy Final Destination knockoff.
Yeah, I think it probably would have got like, in the 2000s, because this came out in 2008.
Yeah,
it had all those type of movies that were like, it's obviously they had like those weird scares and stuff like that.
It also
has
feels
that feel to it.
It also feels outdated.
Yeah, it feels really outdated.
Like it feels like a horror movie from like 2000, like 2002 or something. It doesn't feel like 2008. Because if you take it in perspective, this is just a few years prior to like Sinister.
And I guess that is true.
Stuff, which are like on a completely different tier.
And it's made at Warner Brothers. This is a Warner Brothers movie.
Yeah, those were too, I think.
Yeah.
So like The Conjuring would come out like 5 or 6 years after this.
Actually, I kind of wonder, because this movie is a $20 million film. How much was The Conjuring and stuff? Like those weren't too expensive.
Conjuring, I think the first Conjuring is like 10 million.
10 million. I kind of wonder if, since this movie's so expensive, like this is actually a fairly expensive movie.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if, since this is made by Warner Brothers, I kind of wonder since I'm sure this failed pretty badly. Or maybe not. It made 45 million.
Yeah, it made its money back.
Yeah, it made its money back. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe
However, the Japanese one was made on a budget of like 1.5 million or something. Yeah. And it made like 16 million.
And it was much better. Like it was like a lot more effective still.
Right. So the Japanese one was much more successful financially, which is why I can always see. Yeah, you got to take into account that the remake cost a lot more to make and it looks terrible.
And it looks worse.
Most of that budget probably went into that crappy CGI, to be honest.
Yeah, mostly. I'm pretty sure. Like it's like all the stuff they showed on fire and stuff like that.
Because there's so much CGI in that movie. All the weird ghost face people, the centipedes crawling through people's skin and everything, and it all looks bad.
Yeah, it looks horrible. It looks like a traditional 2000s CGI. That looks like not very good.
This movie came out the same year as Iron Man.
Did it?
Yeah.
Holy cow. And
for
that
like
was like a much
comparison.
different. Yeah, that's much different too. I didn't realize that's when it came out at the same time.
Yeah, 2008. That's when Iron Man came out. So
Holy cow!
yeah, this is not great. And
No.
there's a cast of nobodies
Yeah.
because
Wish.
like the Japanese one has Ko Shibasawa in it or whatever, like, and she's been in like a bunch of crap. She was in like 47 Ronin with Keanu Reeves and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
so like she's not only was famous in Japan, she also was famous enough to get international acclaim
Yeah,
as
it's
well.
like Hollywood film too.
So whereas the American one is like no one.
Yeah.
It's a bunch
It
of
has
nobodies.
was it Wish
Yeah, I
Wish Ben
described.
Affleck.
Yeah, that's how I described the lead actor, the cop Jack, whatever his name is. He he looks like they wanted to hire Ben Affleck for the role, but they couldn't afford him, so they like ordered him on Wish.
Yeah.
That's what. Because I've never seen that actor in anything else ever again. The director doesn't even have a Wikipedia article.
Yeah, Eric Valet. Valet. I don't know.
Yeah, that guy did nothing before
Yeah.
or since. Apparently, he's like the
Because that
one
0%
person.
Rotten Tomato probably like ruined his career.
Yeah, I'm sure he's like the one person that's doesn't have a Wikipedia article that works in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is not great.
Yeah, I kind of like I said, I kind of wonder is it because of the pacing? Do you think it's because of the pacing that's the reason why it's so bad in this movie? Because it's like, or maybe it's just because it feels dated. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's dated.
It's a combination of everything, but I think the worst. I would even forgive the crap CGI and all that stuff. It's more or less the pacing is terrible.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even let the scene linger. There's some real bad acting in
Yeah,
this.
acting is not because in the Japanese version, you can kind of tell when like Yumi and stuff is like crying. Like it's like you can tell when someone's like in a traumatizing event. Was like, oh, I'm gonna be dying here in a few days. You can tell by her acting that she kind of like is like worried about it.
Yeah.
And the American version, it'll show like a scene where she's crying, and then it cuts so fast that she doesn't have tears in her eyes, and they're talking on the phone. It's like, what?
Because it's probably a completely different day or something.
Yeah, it was like it's like yeah, and it's daylight. It's like daylight outside. It's like, what the heck?
So yeah. So to wrap this up, highly recommend the Japanese version.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's like probably one of the better J horror movies.
Oh yeah, easily. And do not bother with the American one unless you're looking for a comedy.
Yeah, look for a comedy or you want to see a 0% food movie.
Yeah, if you're curious to see what a 0% movie looks like, then there you go.
Yeah, there you go. One missed call.
One missed opportunity.
Yeah, one miss. It's like you just lost an hour and 30 minutes of your life.
That's what you lost.
Yes.
One missed hour.
And actually, there's another thing I kind of this movie, like One Missed Call, the Japanese version, feels like it kind of inspired some of these newer movies because they have like a lot of these movies that, you know, like Unfriended kind of has the same type of thing, or maybe what's that one movie? It's like Death Incorporated. It's like some weird movie about like an app that tells you when you're gonna die.
Yeah, some of that stuff. There's a few early 2000s Japanese horror constantly did like a technology angle because Cairo or Pulse or whatever does the same thing.
Oh, okay, so it has like the same type of thing.
It's like through computers and like chat rooms and all that kind of stuff that it spreads.
Yeah.
So this kind of does the same thing, or even to a lesser extent, you could even say that like Ringu does that because it uses like VHS.
Oh yeah, that's true. Stuff. Like it's like found footage almost. It's kind of like found, not really found footage, but kind of like found footage.
Yeah, because it's like transmits via VHS tapes and stuff. So it uses technology as like a conduit.
Yeah. Which that's very that's like I think about it. It's actually fairly modern still. Like it says they're making it now in 2020s. I guess 2010s they did it.
Yeah,
like in that decade,
right? So
which I guess that would be going back. Was that like what they say, like every 30 years or 20 years or something like that? They kind of go back.
What's that thing? That's what I always said was it's like a 30-year mark where they that's where all the remakes and stuff happen
Yeah.
and stuff. So like you'll notice like starting with like the 80s, because the 80s, at least in America, 80s films were a lot of them are remakes of 50s movies, and now in the
Yeah.
2010s we're remaking everything from the 80s. So
Yes.
it's that 30-year mark, and now we're starting to get into 90s nostalgia and all that.
Yeah. So what you're starting to get closer to like One Missed Call, the Japanese version. Maybe that's because that's maybe people maybe saw like directors now probably saw that when they were younger.
Yeah, so maybe another 5 to 10 years, you might start seeing remakes of Japanese remakes of One Missed Call and Ju-on and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
And maybe like I wonder if American remakes or Japanese it's like American remakes of the Japanese movie remake. It's gonna be like
Somebody in 2030 will be like, my filmmaking career was inspired by the 2008 remake of One Missed Call.
like I like that breakneck pacing in these movies.
Yeah, well, we have seen that in movies of late. Like it pioneered the editing technique that would be
Yeah,
seen
there we
in
go.
The
Of the
Predator.
model, yeah, exactly. That is true, actually.
Whatever. There was another movie we saw a few years ago that was like that too. I can't remember which one it was. Or
Yeah.
the first Suicide Squad's like that too, where it's
Oh
just
yeah, that's
editing nightmare.
yes. It's that 0%. That's that editing.
They're going there. They're trying for that 0% rating.
Yes, there we go.
So anyway, that is our view on One Missed Call. So if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the Courageour Frights for more videos like this in the future. And you too could feel the strength welling within. See ya.
See ya.